Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me, Andrea. Thanks for the invitation to you, to CEPS, to Carol, Lisbetta. I see Dita here in the audience, part of the board. Daniel, I think, is here on the first row as well. It's been wonderful to be able to rely on your expertise over the years. I usually come to events such as this one with confidence that's projected through the stability and predictability that, if I may say, we used to have. We are living in an era of unprecedented acceleration, where technological advancements are moving at a lightning speed. In fact, it's difficult to catch up with the newest developments in that arena, but also while global events are rewriting the rules of the game, the rules of the global order. And that is all happening in real time, as we speak, as we live. The way I see my work in the Parliament currently is around three main global trends that are shaping my perspective when it comes to Europe in general, but also when it comes to our digital future, as this panel wants to explore and suggest. So the first topic that takes center stage is, of course, the war in Ukraine. I believe the way we are going to address the war in Ukraine, it should in some way be considered as Europe's ultimate graduation exam. I think we have to demonstrate our ability to provide an effective and actionable strategy to get to the just and lasting peace that Ukraine deserves. I'm very happy in a way that this week Europe has more concrete plans than last week. And as we approach the European summit in 2 days' time, in a way, it gives me optimism that we could cement some plans to arm Ukraine, that we could have concrete plans on how we are going to invest in defense in Europe, but also of how we are going to be having those practical relationships strengthened with our allies. The second thing that shapes my perspective is the digital landscape. But we cannot look at the digital landscape without fully understanding and considering our relationship with the United States. And it's a relationship that spans decades. I would like us to try and to be patient. I don't think I was very patient until now, necessarily. But instead of assuming the worst, I think patience is needed today more than in the past 2 months. After all, our economies and people are interconnected in a way that are not interconnected with any other nation. And that requires us to find crafty solutions that work for both sides of the Atlantic. I think if our approach is centered on cooperation and fairness rather than harming others, it's the right approach, and we are committed to those collaborative mindset. But in the same time, I think we are also showing that we are prepared to adapt to any new situation that may arise. Thirdly, I think speaking of these two events or trends, I think there's something else that is also playing out there, and I think we see it even clearer in the past weeks. And this is that there's a certain war on narratives. And I hope that Europe can own its own narrative in that war that sometimes louder, sometimes is not as loud. When it comes to our values and principles, they cannot be just quiet words, but we should turn them into bold actions. Articulating the reasoning behind our actions or behind our policies has to be clearly communicated. Because I hope that no one in Brussels is just legislating to create more red tape. However, I think for the past couple of months and maybe even few years, it has become difficult for the machinery to make it easier, to make it simpler, and more straightforward for companies to do business in Europe. And that, I think, clearly has to change. And I think it has been understood. And there is a certain amount of self-awareness. But I think we can only win that narrative if we demonstrate our strengths with conviction and clarity in the same time. And when it comes to our digital future, I think our first strength lies in our traditional industries. Europe is a global leader in the automotive sector, aeronautics, engineering, chemicals, and a number of other sectors. We excel when it comes to manufacturing exports. More than 37% of the global exports are owned to Europe. So the theory and practice say that the real winners of innovation and modernization are the adopters. If we look at who invented in the past, Britain developed many of those industrial technologies, but countries like Germany and the United States were those that adopted and scaled them effectively. They became the industrial powerhouses. Currently, we have only 13% of European businesses that are applying AI in their operations. I believe our focus could lie in equipping the other 87% of traditional businesses, from manufacturing to agriculture, to learn how to apply and use those technological advancements. Another strength, I believe, lies into those innovative ideas. We can call them European startups. Hopefully, more of them would become also scale-ups. It's about how do we ensure that the ideas become services, products, how those innovations contribute to the modernization of the traditional industry. And currently, we see a disconnect. Startups may develop solutions, but they're not systematically integrated into the established industrial sectors. And without this connection, without finding the productivity and competitiveness, the gains would remain limited, and startups can stagnate, startups grow. So I hope that we could have startups to be connected both to capital and purpose, and we can help them develop and scale. Thirdly and lastly, I think our biggest strength lies in our values. The global tech conversation is shaped by those who speak the loudest in Europe. But I believe Europe must communicate its trends with confidence. Why do we regulate in a certain way in Europe? I don't think it's because of imposing fines, nor because of the desire to favor certain companies on others. It's because we are striving to build an ethical and safe technologies. It's because we want to make sure that the ultimate goal and approach for Europe is the safety of our citizens. Safety creates trust. Trust then makes it possible to use the technology. If these are some of the principles we can think and work on, there's many others, as we've heard from the previous speakers. But maybe I would like to end on a note that's different to my interventions over the past 2 months. It was a lot on the gloomy side. It was a lot on the need for us to be active. I attended a number of events, from the annual economic forum in Davos to the Munich Security Conference. We all noticed the scenes at the Oval Office last week as well. But it will be important to give confidence to Europe, I believe, today more than ever. It cannot be just those that speak louder, but it can be those that have a crafty plan. So I very much hope that we will come with a well-thought plan, not just for Europe's digital future, but for Europe's future as a whole. A plan that plays to our strengths, a plan that trumps those voices that are louder, and a plan that shows that, yes, Europe can protect, but Europe can lead as well. Thank you.